Welcome to the Wellness in Asheville podcast, where we shine a light on the people, practices, and places that make this city one of the most inspiring wellness communities in the country. I'm your host, Travis Richardson, founder of Be Well Asheville, your local news source for health, wellness, and community events. Today's guests are two of the guiding forces behind one of Asheville's most respected institutions in holistic medicine, Daoist Traditions College of Chinese Medical Arts. Dr. Cissy Majebe, founder and president, has spent decades bridging Eastern medicine with the West, pioneering the introduction of classical Chinese medicine education to the Southeast. Rachel Nowakowski, founder and vice president, has been a Chinese medicine practitioner for 25 years and has been integral in helping the college grow to where it is today. Together, they share how Daoist principles shape not only clinical care, but how we live, learn, and connect with ourselves and the world around us. And before we kick things off today, I just have to say I'm personally a huge fan of this clinic. I've been actually going there for many years now, and it's such a great gift to have a place like this right here in Asheville. As a wellness destination, our city has a long, rich history that goes back decades, and we have so much to be proud of. Daoist Traditions is without a doubt a huge part of that legacy. I really enjoyed my conversation with these two powerful, amazing women, and I hope you enjoy it every bit as much as I did. Welcome, Dr. Majebe and Rachel, to the Wellness in Asheville podcast, here to speak on all things Chinese medicine, including the great college you've built right here in our community, the clinic, and of course, much, much more.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So yes, and I actually am a regular at the student clinic, and I've had some tremendous experiences of my own that I'm going to love to share later on. But just so the listeners know, Daoist Traditions in many ways, to me, is like one of the main cornerstones of holistic education in Asheville. But its roots stretch back to a time when acupuncture was barely on the map here in the Southeast, as I've researched. And Dr. Majebe, you opened your clinic back in the 80s, long before most people had even heard of Chinese medicine. And Rachel, you've helped guide the college's growth through decades of change. So to begin, I know it's actually in the 22nd year here in Asheville, the college is. But what were those early days like? Started by 4 women, very interesting and inspiring.
The early days were very interesting because what we started doing was contacting the National Association for Acupuncture Colleges and speaking with them. And we found out about a conference that they were doing actually down in Orlando. So the 4 of us flew down to Orlando and we had our first introduction. And I think at that first introduction, all of a sudden we were like, hearing everything that other schools had experienced and hearing their difficulties with going through accreditation. We seemed to be the beginners there listening. But we were so excited about the message that we wanted to get out and what we wanted students to be learning about Chinese medicine from the very beginning that we just jumped right in. We didn't care about the fact that the water was 40 feet deep. We just jumped.
And what was that like, as a woman back in those days doing? I mean, what you've created here is pretty massive. I mean, you've got the college, which is a very sophisticated apparatus, in my opinion, an educational institution. This is a major endeavor that you've built for the students. Like, it just feels like to me that would be intimidating for anyone, but even maybe just as, like you said, 4 women starting this. So back when you did, what was that like?
For me, it was like, again, it was such a great idea. We're like, yeah, let's do this. It was really exciting. At that point, Cissy had been practicing for 30 years, maybe.
2003, 18 years.
18 years. And myself and Junie Norfleet, we had graduated school in 1999. So in 2003, we were relatively new practitioners. but the idea of, still learning our, building our skills and building our own practices and opening a school at the same time. Honestly, I don't know what I was thinking back then, but it was, it was an exciting time for me. I had not finished school relatively recently, and so I knew what it was like to go through school, and it was an exciting opportunity to help other people get excited about learning Chinese medicine too. And when we started, we had 10 students working out of one classroom, working out of one office, and we've we've experienced a significant growth over the years. And Cissy had such a reputation in the community and already had been in practice for so long. And a lot of people that come for acupuncture are so fascinated by it, they decide, oh, I want to study this. So that initial group of students were a lot of connections that Cissy had in the community. And now we have students moving here from all over, Hawaii, Alaska, Canada, overseas. So, yeah.
Yeah.
And Cissy, when I was doing my research for this podcast, I learned that you were actually thinking about going into law school, but then you had like this pretty amazing experience with a Jeffrey Yuen, I believe is how you say his name, and he is an
Yeah.
88th generation Daoist priest. And I belong to the newsletter, and I get all these things on the ways that students can continue their education with him and learn and further their knowledge. And I'm just so impressed. But I'm curious from what did he do to change your direction?
I walked into a class, and the class that he was teaching was on what we call the heart protector, the pericardium. And, there are times in your life that you sit and all of a sudden your heart is being touched so open that all of a sudden, and this was back before we had computers in classes. I'm sitting there with my paper, and all of a sudden I've got my head down because I was just overcome. I mean, seriously, I had tears running down my face because I was hearing medicine not coming from the brain of okay, this, but seriously, it was medicine, and it was just listening to this man. It created an opening in your heart that was unbelievable, and it was not just. I mean, it's not like hearing someone who's giving a scientific lecture versus someone who lives what they're doing. And so that was the major thing for me. And I think people get touched just not by the teachings, but by how he how he shares those from the heart. It's so different.
Yeah, and as we were discussing the difference between um, somebody who puts needles in just the right spots, right, with acupuncture, and you have another person who does the same thing, same spots, and you could have the two protocols be the same, but then outcome is different for one of those people because their intention, their mindset can create an entirely different outcome, and I feel it's like that's what you're talking about.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So most people, if they know of acupuncture, they'll soon come across the word or the phrase traditional Chinese medicine or TCM. But there's this other thing called classical Chinese medicine, and as I understand it, it's sort of the historical version. I'm confused as to sort of like what the differences are and how the college addresses both of them, or if you'd address both of them.
So we have to address both of them because the national examinations are primarily based on TCM. Traditional Chinese medicine happened during the time of Chairman Mao, and he came in and he brought all the schools together and said, we're going to standardize Chinese medicine. Now, there were still people in China that didn't really, totally embrace that. And these became some of the more famous teachers. There was a Dr. Wang. There were many, many classical teachers. But in the classics, there are more meridian systems than just when you walk into the clinic, you see the pictures of the 12 meridians. And those are called the primary meridians. And so what they did is they standardized that. But what they also did, because of communism, is they took out a lot of the emotional, spiritual components, even though they talked about the emotional component of like the kidney being associated with fear, the liver being associated with anger, frustration, resentment. Though they talked about that, they did also really move away from the spiritual components of the medicine, not just the emotional components. So I think from a classical Chinese medicine intention and also what your patient, how they're connecting to the medicine is very important. It's not just, oh, this point does this. Let me put this in and it will do that. There has to be a resonance, between the patient and the medicine, the patient and the practitioner. And it's not just about primary meridians that maybe this moves a headache or this will help to release a urinary tract infection. Because from a Chinese medicine perspective, from a classical perspective, you're also looking at that what that illness may be bringing to a person. And so there's spiritual components to it too. And I think a lot of the TCM gives very little significance to that. And that's one of the big things I would say.
Interesting. It makes me think about the way that naturopathic doctors, an ND, N as in Nancy, naturopathic doctor. A lot of people, sadly, don't even know those exist because they were kind of downgraded to obscurity about 100 years ago, I think it was. And it seems like there has been this stripping away the art form of medicine. And what you're talking about is, again, speaks to the art form of it. Um, Rachel, can you tell us about how Taoist philosophy informs uh, the curriculum that you have there, but also the approach to, in general, health and life itself?
Sure. I mean, I think the basic premise of Taoist philosophy is, kind of going with the flow, right? Living in harmony. And, as practitioners, we have to be adaptable and flexible. So, meeting our patients where they are, and adjusting and adapting our treatment for each individual patient. That's the beauty of Chinese medicine. It's not a one size fits all. We have some patients who really want to learn about the energetic side of things. And we have other patients who just are like, my knee hurts. I don't know why you're talking to me about qi, right? So, um, so that's something that, like throughout the whole course of learning this medicine, we learn how to do, and then we practice that in the clinic. Um, in our program, there's different Taoist principles woven within it, as far as like self cultivation. How do we stay grounded? How do we stand as a healer for another person? And some of those ways to help students as, we go through school is pretty stressful. Standing as somebody's practitioner can be stressful. It can be a lot of pressure. People are coming to you in the worst day of their life sometimes, and they're looking to you for answers. So things like meditation and mindfulness, any kind of exercise. Obviously, in our program, that's Qigong, and students practice Qigong all the way through the program. They do reflection, reflective writing in a cultivation journal. They're keeping track of their own progress. And also in the garden, just getting out, being with nature and seeing the cycles of nature in the garden. So just all of those things that, just figuring out how to, be in harmony inside of yourself while there's a lot of stress going on around you, or you're being put in a lot of high pressure situations sometimes as a practitioner.
Mm. Yeah, I just saw on your Instagram the graduating class. I think it was in early June they graduated, and they were showing there was like a picture of them out in their quote unquote natural habitat outside, and it just looks. I mean, if I were like a prospective student, I'd be like, oh my gosh, I totally would want to be a part of what's going on there. It looks like a fun group, but uh, it seems like I've had various acupuncture um, sessions in my life. Even like had my son do acupuncture 20 years ago, and for some health things. And it's weird how different of a I guess how differently trained acupuncturists can be. For instance, I when one of the first people I went to for him was a traditionally trained medical doctor. But I think they had only went to, I don't know, it was maybe some number of certification hours. I don't know what the process was, but it felt very, well, let's just say I compared to the experience I've had at Daoist Traditions is like, it's not even, it was like, I don't know what this is because it was very methodical. It didn't seem to address there was no checking of pulse or tongue diagnosis or anything like you do. Um, I guess can you speak to the differences in the way that your college trains practitioners? I guess versus that.
Sure. Um, well, I think it's for me personally, like, yes, medical doctors can learn acupuncture. They don't have to go through as much training as we do in terms of Chinese medicine training. They've had all the medical side of it, right? But I think when you get acupuncture from someone who didn't go through 4 years of Chinese medicine training, or 3 years if someone went to a 3-year school, um, it can be a little sort of mechanical. This point treats this condition, this point for this symptom, which is a very Western way of thinking, right? You take this pill for this condition, or you press on this point for a headache. But what we teach and what most Chinese medicine schools teach is so much more than that. You have to learn those building blocks to take those baby steps toward being able to apply it with a patient. But we're learning so many other things, as like Cissy was talking about. This is medicine of the heart. How do we connect with a patient? When we sit with a patient, as you know, we do an intake, it is very in depth. It is, asking questions that the patients are like, why are you asking me that? That seems very off topic, but all of these details go into us, creating a very individualized treatment for that patient's unique situation. So, yeah.
So can I'd love to put you on the spot here, and maybe Sissy, you're going to be able to answer this. I feel like I see you're ready to pounce. Okay, hold your thought, get ready to pounce, and I'm going to ask you to add on this, which is to give like the listeners an example of them maybe coming in for something, and then only through then proper diagnostics that you do, they find that it's actually something before that's the problem, or that's not the root cause, but you find the root cause because of the diagnosis. All right,
Mhm.
now jump
Sure.
in.
Well, I think, one thing that we know is that a symptom it's really the tip of the iceberg. There's a whole underlying imbalance, thing that's happening. And, maybe a patient comes in and says, I get headaches when I drink coffee. So, okay, maybe that is a true statement, but the reason is because that person's liver qi is so stagnant that when they drink coffee, it's impacting the liver in such a way that it's causing a headache. Whereas somebody else, they drink coffee, they don't get a headache. So what's going on for that individual person that's causing that symptom to appear when such and such a thing, occurs, right? Or you're out in nature and you're in the pollen and you are having horrible allergies. That's a symptom of what's going on with your lung and liver qi. Whereas other people are out there in the same pollen and they're not reacting at all.
Wonderful. Sissy, you were going to say something here a second ago.
Well, I was going to jump in about, our philosophy of healing, okay? Because, you know, in the United States, overall, two people can see a patient and the and a student who's just sitting there observing gets to count that patient as a patient that they've treated. They may not put in a specific needle, or one of them may talk about the tongue and someone else may do the pulse, but it's not a congruent thing. We didn't go into this college to make, we were already making livings. We didn't go into this college to get rich. We went into this college because we believe in the medicine. And so, because of that, our students spend three-fourths of their time seeing an individual patient. We only have them work as a group their very first semester because they're scared to death at that point, too. They're coming into the clinic for the first time and they're really nervous. So to have two of them together. But we have them seeing, they get to see so many more patients one on one. And that's how you learn is, the more patients that you're able to see where you're having to create the treatment plan and follow up and see what's happening. That's how students learn. And so, for us, it's not, this school was never started as something, to basically make all the money we could off of it. It was started to teach practitioners how to come into the medicine with their heart so they're successful out in the world.
Yeah, it seems like a totally different approach and paradigm, and I mean, I think as a consumer of healthcare, and most people are pretty frustrated with things that are not that way, with the kind of patients that you all have with your patients, and um, it's pretty impressive. I did want to make note of, I believe, this is still true. I saw an article in 2000, what was this, last year, that you do community work with hospice patients, or have done that in at the Elizabeth House in Hendersonville, and then also the unhoused community at Haywood Street Congregation. Are those things you're still doing that your interns do to serve the community?
We're still doing Haywood Street. Okay, we've been doing that for years, and once every week we run a clinic there, a free clinic where anyone can come in. First come, first serve. We did the hospice that was in Hendersonville, and once we had problems with the transportation. We all know that sometimes it can take you an hour to get there. But that ended up being something we had to stop just because of the difficulty going there. And it just wasn't working anymore for our students. So it's something we'd love to do in Asheville again. But it is something
So,
that is
so
in the
now,
curriculum.
instead of Elizabeth House, we are now going and doing some work down at the Veterans Healing Farm, which is in Hendersonville, Brevard. I guess not quite Brevard, wherever it is. Um, and we've gone there a couple of times, and they're doing some really great work down there with veterans. So we went a couple of times this past school year. We were just down there a couple last weekend, and then we have a couple of dates set up coming up soon. And then we also do some offsite things with the 12 Baskets Cafe through Asheville Poverty Initiative. And we'll be doing some more of those this fall.
So I want to get back to, just this from the students' experience coming into Daoist traditions. How do they leave? I mean, it seems like a pretty profound experience when you're having them do so much more than just rote, learning of a topic. You're having them journal, you're having them, I mean, it just seems like a profound experience. How do students change as they go through the program?
I can tell you that they all talk about at the end that they're exhausted, and they are. We're very, we're not an easy program. We know that for them to be able to treat people effectively, they also have to be able to talk to people in language they understand. So oftentimes they have to be able to understand and talk with them about the pharmaceuticals they own, the treatments that they're doing or that they've done from their Western physicians. So, the whole transformation from coming into school wanting to be an acupuncturist to 4 years later, being able to walk out, pass all of their national examinations, and open up a clinic are things that they have put their heart and soul into. And how they're transformed, I think a lot of it depends on each one of them, because some people come in and we look at them and they look like different people at the end of 4 years. It's but I think the biggest thing is that they came in with a dream and they are stepping closer to their dreams, and you know the joy that they have at graduation. And it's not just the students, the parents, their partners, for those of them who are married, they all come up to us at graduation and talk about how important this has been, not just for their life, but for their family's life. I mean, we have parents, grandparents, so many people coming to graduation because this is such a transformation from before the student came in. And, they step out as professionals, but they step out as heart-centered professionals.
Yeah, I don't think I think it's impossible to go through a program like this and to study a medicine with this much depth and history and not be changed by it. Um, our program is immersive, and students really have to commit to focusing their energy for 4 years of study. And some of that learning really pushes you. It pushes you out of your comfort zone, where you have to be touched and palpated by classmates and needled by relative strangers, right? Everybody's a beginner. It's kind of nerve wracking to be needled by a beginner. Um, and you have to be in your beginner's mind too. You have to be willing to put yourself as, okay, I'm a beginner. I don't know what I'm doing, and let go of that ego side of like, I'm good at this, right? There's no real natural uh, life skill that's going to really make you be a better acupuncturist as far as like needling. It's not something that most of us have ever done before.
Mm.
And you have to be willing to just let yourself make mistakes. That's part of the learning. So in the beginning, it's kind of about you as the student. I need to learn this. I need to get good grades. I need to pass my classes. In those first 2 years, you're building those skills and gathering all that information. And then you get to clinic and it becomes less about you and all about the patient. And we see that happen with our students where all of a sudden they want to learn, but it's so that they can help the patient. And then when they're working with the patient, they want to learn as much as they can from that experience so they can take what they learned and help more people. So like Cissy said, when people graduate, we're like, wow, like we sit there announcing people at graduation every year and think like, God, think about where they began. And there's a lot happens in those 4 years. And for us, we've been doing this for so long, the 4 years feels like a blip, like, wow, they're graduating already. And we say that to students and they're like, what do you mean already? I feel like we've been here for forever. But yeah, definitely a lot changes.
How many students come from Asheville versus come from other places? And then also, I guess the follow on to that would be how many stay and how many go back, or kind of how does the flow in and out of students come through your school?
I mean, some years we have like no students who are from the Asheville area. Some students sometimes there's a few students who are from here, but a lot of our students come from elsewhere at this
Mhm.
point. Um, and a lot of them go back to where they came from before and take this back to their communities, and some of them stay. There's quite a few group practices in the Western North Carolina area and in other places where there's multiple DT graduates working together, and that's really cool to see.
That's awesome. Yeah, I really like the way that you blend the support for the local community with this appeal to, I mean, national and international students, because of the nature of what you guys are doing is so unique. I think I haven't seen any other schools do it like you do. with such comprehensive education. So back to the community aspect, though, for the residents of Asheville, if you haven't tried, for a listener who hasn't tried a session out, I think it's really accessible because, like in my experience, first of all, it's very affordable. I mean, I think session was like $40, and sometimes you even run. I think I got over the winter. I think there was like $125 5-pack or something like that. It was like a really. I'm like, I tell people about that, and they say, where is this? Where can I get this? And I seriously, I tell them, and they say, well, I'm going to go sign up. I say, well, you should, because like I've had personally, and I don't mean this to diminish. I'm never trying to diminish anybody who's a helper of others.
Right.
And I don't mean this at all. So I don't want anybody to feel
Yes.
offended, but I will say that the students that I've gotten treatment from in the student clinic were as skilled, if not more skilled, than practitioners with many years of experience. And I'm not saying that just for any other reason that's just my truth. So I just need to say it. So you can trust that you're going to go into the student clinic, but you're getting somebody who is very well prepared, and there's somebody who comes in and checks their work. And it made me feel very safe that like what they're doing is very guided. They go and they think through what they're going to do before they do it. They meet with their advisor, and it's like really well done. I'm just so impressed.
Our faculty are an amazing group of people. And again, these are all people who live here in Asheville. And we are very blessed because our faculty really care about the mission of the school, and they care about helping to build a community of practitioners who can take this medicine and go back to their communities and basically bring this medicine into their own community. So part of that is because of the excellent faculty we have, and we can't say enough about them.
Agreed. Are there any collaborations that you do or the students do with other healthcare professionals, whether they be medical doctors or mental health therapists or?
First of all, we have physicians on staff. Okay, so we have Western medicine physicians on staff. We have chiropractors on staff. We are there any other things I'm leaving out? Mental health professionals. These are all things that they have to be able to interact with those people to pour some of their wisdom when they're going to see their patients. So, just even in the school, they have that. Um, it's you know these are things that we try to make sure that are part of their education. It can't just be Chinese medicine doctors, because we have to work in a community and we have to be able to communicate. When that's one of the most important things. And, I think we try and tell them, when you go back into your community, you have to go around and introduce yourself to the other community members. That's how you create a community where you can all work together. If you go out, and the minute you get into a new community and reach out and, say, here I am, but I'm going to need people to refer to, when they need mental health issues, or when they need chiropractic issues, or massage therapy, or a Western physician. We send people to get labs very often. I want to see something, you know, if it's just important to be able to use laboratory analysis in your clinic to help improve their treatment. So
Hmm.
I think
Mhm.
that's just part of it.
And I'm usually surprised, for we actually get referrals from medical doctors to our student clinic, which I think it says a lot. And we're usually, reach out like, "Are you, this is a student clinic?" "Oh yeah, that's what I meant to do, is refer them over there for treatment." So,
How does Chinese medicine differ from Western medicine?
Cissy?
So I think, you know, how Chinese medicine is different is 5 people can walk in with headaches and get 5 different treatments. In Western medicine, you're treating a symptom, but you're not treating a patient who has a symptom. Every patient gets the same pharmaceutical and there's a dosage, okay? But someone could come in with a headache, and after I take their pulses, I could see, oh, there's a stomach imbalance that's creating this. Or I could say, there's an imbalance in the gallbladder, or there's an imbalance in the urinary bladder. And the only way you find these things out is by taking a complete history. And that means spending anywhere from 30 minutes to an hour finding out more about the person. And it's not just the symptom. The symptom is the view of is part of the imbalance. And where's the balance the imbalance that's creating that symptom? So it's a very different thing. What headache doesn't really mean anything in Chinese medicine. Oh, you have pain, but I want to know, what does that pain feel like? What aggravates that pain? What makes that pain better? When, how, when you're having this pain, what else is going on in your body? If you're having a headache and you also start having loose stools at the same time, it's not symptom based. If we can track it back, we can resolve symptoms. But the biggest thing is, you know, your headache is this much of your health. What do we need to do to get you healthy overall?
That's perfect. That explains it really, really well. I have two observations. The first is Chinese medicine has been doing personalized medicine for thousands of years, whereas we just now, you hear personalized medicine is a trending word in in the allopathic world, right? And I mean, they're talking about at the genetic level, but essentially, what you're doing is personalized medicine, and it's always been that way. Secondly, in my experience, even the more profound thing about what you just said for me is that I get to learn about myself. When the practitioner tells me that they've detected, or they're saying, you have weak chi in the liver, and we start talking about experientially what's, life stuff, like what's going on. I might be able to. It doesn't happen every time, but I've had times where I've now learned some things. Oh, when I wake up and I turn my phone on right off the bat, that's affecting my chi in this way, or um, when I do anything, it doesn't matter what you name it. You can start to learn some of these patterns, and that becomes, I think, really important for somebody preventative wise, because now you're really doing prevention. You're actually getting at the root of things. I think that's a big power that Chinese medicine has and that I've observed. What do you say to somebody being, who's curious about becoming an acupuncturist or herbalist today? Like, what would you say to them thinking about your school?
Rachel?
Um, yeah, for me, I would say, really explore all the programs out there, because, every school teaches what ACOM, our accreditor, says we have to teach, right? This core bunch of classes and these core competencies you have to accomplish to graduate. But every school has its own special flavor, right? Some schools don't teach herbs. It's acupuncture only. Some people, some schools are a 5-element based school as opposed to a 8 principle TCM type school. And you really have to just get a feel for the location, the student body, the faculty, and really make sure that you feel at home there, because it is a big commitment. It is a big commitment of time. And energy and money, and you want to have it be a good fit, so you feel like you're in the right place for all of that time, and you're not kind of questioning, why am I doing this? It's most people, you find the right school and you're in it. You're just hungry to learn more, and you just kind of I don't know. I just want to get the most out of it without feeling like I'm not really sure about this. That's not a good feeling.
Mm-hmm. Those are wise words. I just wanted to say thank you so much for the work that you're doing in the community and the support that the heart that is clearly felt by everyone who is around both of you. I really personally appreciate the experiences that I've had, and so I just wanted to say thank you for that. And it's really pretty awesome.
Thanks. You know, the one thing that I tell people a lot of times, and I've told this to all of my children, I cannot imagine having had a better life.
Mm-hmm.
Seriously. Moving to Asheville, right out of acupuncture college. I went to acupuncture college in Santa Fe. And moving here was, such a blessing that I had no idea. But I didn't know any acupuncturists when I started acupuncture school. I just did it and, didn't know what kind of a path it was taking me on. And um, I can't imagine a life where I get to help people. And, I run into people on the street sometimes and they'll say, "Oh, you helped my headaches 30 years ago. I've never had them since then." I mean, it's this, I just don't think it's, I've had a wonderful life. I mean, I'm in my mid 70s and, I still love what I do. I still love seeing patients. And I'm very excited about seeing people come in and walk out and then hearing about how good they're doing in the profession. We have a student that moved to Durham, and my sister called me last night saying how much better she was feeling because she's been seeing this woman now for 6 weeks, one time a week. And, it's like, and, she's just seeing one of our students who is now in the Raleigh-Durham area. So
Mm.
we love watching these students go out, and we want them to populate the whole United States.
Send them out and have them do good.
Yes.
That's pretty much the thing. I know there's some summer. I saw some on Instagram also some summer packages. I think that are going to be running through August, which is this podcast will be released in August. So I think people might be able to take advantage of those. And then also I'll let you talk about them, but also you have a fall 2025 enrollment coming up, and it's still open for the master's and doctoral programs. I'll just give you a second to sort of plug those two things.
Sure. Our doctoral professional track actually starts classes in early July. That is open to people who graduated from Master of Acupuncture and Herbal Medicine programs. We are currently in the process of launching a Doctor of Acupuncture program. So for people who did not study herbs in their previous training to come back to earn their doctorate will be an option. And the master's program, new students begin in early August. We have an introductory week for them to do. We have some fun classes in that week. And then students can still enroll up until our fall start date, which is around the 20th of August. I'm sorry, I don't have the date in front of me. And currently our Certificate of Herbal Medicine program is running, and those students are about to start their last 8-month term. So we'll be having our Herbal Medicine Clinic, which is free herbal consultations once a month with our clinical interns that are in that program who are licensed acupuncturists who return back to school to learn herbal medicine to enhance their practice.
Mm. Wonderful. Wonderful. Well, thank you both for being on this show today. I really appreciate your time.
Okay. Thank you so much for having us.
If today's conversation sparked your curiosity about Chinese medicine or you're considering a healing path of your own, visit daoisttraditions.edu to learn more about their programs, clinics, and community offerings. You can also experience the power of student-led care at their teaching clinic, which is open to the public and a great entry point for affordable holistic treatment right here in Asheville. And if you know someone who might make a great guest for the Wellness in Asheville podcast or a story worth spotlighting, please reach out. Thank you for listening. To learn more about Be Well Asheville, visit bewellavl.com. And don't forget to follow this podcast. You can catch the next episode and bring us along on your hike on the Mountains to Sea Trail, on your drive through the Parkway, or on your way downtown to Friday's Drum Circle. If you loved what you heard, please rate and review the show. Your review helps others discover and grow our wellness community. You can also check out Asheville Wellness news, events, and our newsletter at bewellavl.com. Thank you for being the best part of our wellness community. Until next time, be well.